Hello and welcome to episode 1900 of Shakesyear, which also happens to be the last of the sonnets. We've been working on the sonnets and we've made it to the end. We've got sonnet 154 today to celebrate episode 1900 of Shakesyear, and I sort of love it that worked out that way. But just so you know, we're not quite done yet. He does have a few more epic poems that we'll be going through before we say on to the next thing, because we're done with Shakespeare. But we're not done with Shakespeare. We have to do sonnet 154 today, which says, "The little love god lying once asleep, laid by his side his heart in flaming brand, whilst many nymphs that vowed chaste life to keep came tripping by, but in her maiden hand the fairest votary took up that fire, which many legions of true hearts had warmed. And so the general of hot desire was, sleeping, by a virgin hand disarmed. This brand she quenched in a cool well by, which from love's fire took heat perpetual, growing a bath and healthful remedy for men diseased. But I, my mistress thrall, came there for cure, and this by that I prove, love's fire heats water, water cools not love." So this one is extraordinarily similar to sonnet 153. I keep wanting to say episode 153, but it's sonnet 153. If you remember yesterday, he was talking about Cupid having his fiery arrow stolen and it gets extinguished in a cool brook, which supposedly creates a bath that can cure everybody of everything, but it can't cure Shakespeare of his love for presumably the Dark Lady or some lady, or maybe even the fair youth, whoever it is that he's most in love with at this point. This one tells pretty much the same story about, Cupid is sleeping and some woman comes and takes his arrow and puts it out in a cool stream nearby, which gets heated by the perpetual heat of all of the love that has been generated by and within Cupid's arrow. But Shakespeare, or the speaker, is not able to find any sort of remedy there. Love's fire heats water, but water cools not love. So even though he goes to bathe there, sitting in that particular hot tub did not get him over his obsession with the Dark Lady or the fair youth, or whoever you want to say that he's saying this one about. So a lot of scholars consider this also to be part of the Dark Lady series, but you could take sonnets 153 and 154 and just sort of put them aside and put them over here, because they're just telling the story of Cupid losing his arrow and how Shakespeare can't get over his own obsessions. So those could be by or about or to or in reference to anyone, these all. And keep in mind, a lot of this and a lot of these analyses and a lot of the things that I've found in this is all speculation. We really don't know what Shakespeare was definitively writing about. We can only guess based on the other things that we knew about his life. So if there's stuff that you have found in the sonnets that wasn't covered in my little recaps, that's excellent. I would love to hear about it, and I encourage you to keep studying and keep digging in. And I'm also curious if you had any particular favorite sonnets. Were there any along the way that particularly struck your fancy? There were a couple for me. I'm going to forget the numbers right off the top of my head, but I think 16 was one of them, and there was one in like the one, maybe it was like 16 and 116 or something like that, were both really fun. And watch this, I'll go back and watch those ones and be like, nope, it wasn't those, it was something else. But anyway, yeah, I would love to know what your favorites were, how you felt about exploring Shakespeare's poetry instead of his play verse type poetry. And yeah, we've got a little bit still to go in his epic poems, but thank you for coming along with me on this journey for the last 1900 days. And I will see you tomorrow as we dig into Shakespeare's longer poems. I'll see you then. Mwah.